Constantinople falls. Mehmed II conquered a city that defied enemies for 1,000 years. Empire expanding, fear spreading. The Sultan's power grew. A field of death near Targovista. The Ottoman army halted. 20,000 impaled. Not a battle aftermath, but a terrifying warning. This land? Unconquerable by war. 1453. Constantinople, the last Byzantine outpost, stood alone. Across the Golden Horn, Sultan Mehmed II and his mighty Ottoman army. Young, ruthless, driven to finish what his ancestors started. Shatter the last Byzantine defense. Forge a path to Europe. Emperor Constantine XI refused to surrender. His vow before the final assault: the city may fall, but I won't abandon my people. Ottoman infantry charges. Then the Janissaries. Warrior elite, raised for war, loyal to the Sultan. Hand-to-hand combat erupted. The battle turned brutal. Close quarters fighting. The emperor died fighting, never retreating. After the fall, Mehmed II entered Hagia Sophia, symbol of a 1,000-year empire. A devastating blow to Christendom, unprecedented since the Huns. Mehmed II aimed to Islamize the Balkans, reach Rome itself. Constantinople's fall ignited a new superpower. Military reforms fueled the Sultan's success. The Janissaries, trained via devshirme, were the 15th century's deadliest infantry. But artillery was the true game-changer. Massive cannons, mobile artillery, advanced siege tech. No European army could match them. The Ottoman state? Centralized, organized, rich, far richer than any Balkan Christian principality. 1442. Young princes Vlad and Radu were Ottoman hostages. Their new reality: Turkish language, military training, court politics, absolute loyalty demanded. For Vlad, this was formative. He saw Ottoman dominance, Christian princes bowing. While Vlad was captive, his father and brother were murdered by boyars. Devastating news. A lifelong trauma. This forged his future cruelty. Cruelty became his rule. Returning from captivity, Vlad III vowed never a vassal. After years of conflict, shifting alliances, he reclaimed the Wallachian throne in 1456, supported by John Hunyadi, Hungary's regent. A legendary Christian commander, Hunyadi had stopped Mehmed II at Belgrade, his first major defeat post-Constantinople. But Wallachia was in crisis just as Vlad returned. The Sultan was advancing everywhere. Hungary tried to curb the Ottomans in Wallachia, but they were exhausted by war. Chaos ruled within. Boyars fought, switched sides, swore loyalty to both Sultan and king. Vlad's return meant radical change. He enforced strict control, discipline, and crushed rebellious nobles. For this border state, it was survival. Survival meant becoming a Christian bulwark, a wall against Mehmed II's European ambitions. Serbia, weakened by internal wars, faced its end in 1459. Mehmed II besieged Smederevo, Serbia's last stand. While Vlad consolidated power, Mehmed secured his rear. Smederevo fell. The last Serbian stronghold, land taken but more. The elite destroyed, population deported. Serbia became a province. By 1460, the Balkan defense was shattered. Wallachia trapped. Mehmed II eyed his next vassal. Smederevo's fall wasn't just a change of rulers. It opened the door for massive Balkan changes. The Sultan planned total Ottoman control, eliminate Christian autonomy, purge disloyal lords, integrate lands. First, mass deportations and resettlements. Craftsmen, merchants, clergy moved to key cities: Istanbul, Edirne, Bursa. This built up the capital and weakened Balkan opposition. Second, military sweeps of unstable regions, raids into mountains for rebels, lords, outlaws, strongholds destroyed, loyalty enforced. Third, land system restructuring, old estates to Timur holders, monastic lands partly secularized. Strategic consequences. By 1460, Serbia and surroundings were a stable Ottoman province. The old elite, capable of revival, was gone. The Balkan shield was broken. Serbia's fall forced Vlad III Dracula's great cleansing, a harsh internal purge. Power centralization, eliminating internal threats. Easter 1459. Vlad summoned suspected boyars, some executed on the spot, Others watched family die. A brutal, public display. A new order. The prince's power became absolute. Fear and discipline ruled. This forged Vlad's image, uncompromising defender of state and faith. No betrayal tolerated, not even from his own. The Easter execution solidified his rule. A legend born of foresight, calculation, and terrifying resolve. 1461. Mehmed II gave Wallachia an ultimatum: submit or be next. A delegation arrived in Targovista. Not diplomacy, but a blunt demand. 3 points. Resume jizya tax, humiliating tribute. Hand over 500 boys for janissaries, devastating, turning children into weapons. Confirm personal submission to Mehmed II, acknowledging Dracula's rule was by Sultan's grace. Vlad Tepes knew this meant losing independence. He turned the visit into a show of defiance. At the reception, he demanded envoys remove turbans, a sign of respect. They refused. Their religion forbade it. Vlad's chilling reply: "If your turbans are held so firmly, let them stay that way forever." The envoys were seized, their turbans nailed to their heads. Survivors were sent back to the Sultan. Those who survived were sent back to the Sultan. The survivors were sent back to the Sultan with spikes still in their heads. The message was clear: I'm no puppet. I'm your enemy. After they killed the Ottoman envoys, Vlad Tepes knew he had one choice: strike first, before the Sultan could gather his army. Winter gave him an edge. The Danube, the border with Ottoman lands, was frozen solid. What was usually a guarded crossing was now a solid ice path. Under the cover of darkness, Dracula led his army across the Danube, bypassing Ottoman patrols. This wasn't a random attack. It was a calculated campaign against Ottoman infrastructure in Bulgaria. Vlad's forces moved fast. They destroyed garrisons, burned villages, and took down fortified estates. They focused on key routes, connecting Vidin, Nikopol, and Tarnovo. Ottoman records say Vlad's strike was so sudden, entire areas were left unprotected for weeks. Places meant to launch an invasion of Wallachia were turned to rubble. In February 1462, Vlad sent King Matthias Corvinus a detailed report: 884 Turks and Tatars killed. Listed with incredible detail. Some historians doubt the numbers, but the letter sent a powerful message. Vlad was Europe's southern defender. Legend says Dracula even sent heads to prove his claims. The 1461 to 1462 raid had a big impact. Mehmed II saw he wasn't facing a minor prince, but a leader who could invade Ottoman territory and damage his prestige. This led Mehmed to plan a massive invasion. In spring 1462, the Sultan announced a massive expedition, one of the largest of the 15th century. Ottoman and European records say Mehmed gathered up to 150,000 troops. Even with exaggeration, that's huge. Janissaries, cavalry, raiders, and artillery. The Sultan's war machine after Constantinople's fall. The goal: destroy Vlad III and make Wallachia an Ottoman province. Mehmed advanced slowly. Such a large army needed supplies, safe passage, and prepared roads. This was Dracula's chance. He knew his land and his limits. In a direct fight, his army couldn't win, so Vlad decided to wear down the enemy with a scorched earth strategy. His orders were brutal and systematic. Burn every village along the Ottoman path. Destroy or take all provisions. Poison wells and water sources, cutting off water for the Ottoman cavalry and supply trains. The population was evacuated to the forests and mountains, leaving the Sultan's army without guides, transport, or local support. Meanwhile, constant guerrilla attacks continued. Night raids, ambushes in narrow passes, and attacks on reconnaissance and supply units. This tactic worked. Chroniclers wrote that behind Mehmed's huge army lay a dead, desolate land. The Ottoman forces pushed deeper into Wallachia, but found only hunger, thirst, and constant attacks. Still, Mehmed was determined to conquer Wallachia and kill Vlad III Dracula. Mehmed II's army camped near Targovista. Exhausted from marching through ravaged Wallachia, they waited for the final move. That's when Vlad planned a daring attack, a strike at the enemy's core. a nighttime raid to kill the Sultan himself. He gathered about 7,000 to 10,000 of his best fighters. Thanks to his intelligence, Dracula knew the Ottoman camp layout and the Sultan's tent location. The plan was simple: get to the center of the camp and kill Mehmed. Success could end the war in one night. Under darkness, Wallachian squads stormed the camp, attacking from three sides. The first strike was a shock. The front Ottoman units, raiders, and auxiliaries couldn't hold. They retreated, causing chaos in the camp. Vlad personally led the main force. In the dark, amidst fires and smoke, his warriors repeatedly broke through to the central area. They searched for the Sultan's tent, but Mehmed's guards reacted in time. The battle became a chaotic, nighttime free-for-all. Tepes managed to kill several high-ranking Ottoman commanders, but he never reached the Sultan. Fires lit in the camp illuminated the battlefield, robbing the Wallachians of their dark advantage. Realizing his main goal was impossible and the risk of being surrounded was growing, Vlad ordered a retreat. The Ottomans managed to stabilize their defenses, but the night's attack had a clear impact. Even though the assassination failed, the attack showed Mehmed this campaign would be much harder than expected. When Mehmed II's main forces neared Targovista, he expected a city ready to surrender, or at least traditional resistance. Instead, when the Ottoman army reached the plain, they saw one of the most horrifying sights of the 15th century: the Valley of Death. Thousands of sharpened stakes lined up like a military formation. Each one held a body: a Turk, a Tatar, a traitor, a criminal, a captured soldier, or a peasant suspected of helping the enemy. Ottoman estimates say around 20,000 people. It was a deliberate message for Mehmed II. This is the cost of invading my land. The night raid and the draining marches through destroyed lands crushed the Ottoman fighting spirit. The Janissaries, hardened by years of war, felt for the first time that they faced an enemy who wasn't just fighting, but was ready to destroy anyone touched by his power. German chroniclers wrote that the wind made the bodies move, creating a chilling illusion of life. Mehmed II realized he wasn't facing a defeated principality, but a ruler who used fear as a weapon. The Sultan called a council to discuss losses, troop fatigue, and siege prospects. Then, the Sultan made a surprising decision. He retreated, not due to exhaustion, but because the loss of combat effectiveness could lead to disaster. The 1462 campaign ended without Wallachia's capture, a rare instance of Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, returning without spoils. Quoting the Byzantine historian Leonikos Chalkokondylis, chroniclers noted the Sultan admitted he couldn't conquer land from a man capable of ready to obliterate anyone touched by his power. German scribes wrote, "The wind made corpses move, a chilling illusion of life." Mehmed II saw not a conquered land, but a ruler who weaponized fear. The Sultan held a council: losses, tired troops, siege chances. Then, a surprise move. He pulled back, not from exhaustion, but to avoid disaster. The 1462 campaign ended with no Wallachia, rare for Mehmed II, conqueror of Constantinople, to return empty-handed. Citing Byzantine historian Leonikos Chalkokondylis, scribes noted the Sultan admitted defeat against a man who could of such horrific deeds. Mehmed II's retreat did not mean Vlad's victory. On the contrary, it was after the Ottoman army withdrew that the most dangerous phase began. Wallachia was exhausted, villages burned, crops destroyed, and the population terrified both by the Turkish advance and by the ruthless methods of their own prince. Vlad's younger brother took advantage of this. Radu the Handsome had also been raised for many years at the Sultan's court. Unlike Vlad, Radu was pleasant, gentle, and ready for compromise. In Istanbul, he learned the main lesson: to subdue people not by fear, but by promises of stability. At the beginning of August, Radu entered Wallachia with a detachment of Janissaries and Ottoman commanders. His campaign was not a frontal confrontation, but a political conquest. Radu the Handsome asked for the support of the boyars who had survived the Great Purge and the Easter Massacre. They had not forgotten how disobedience to his elder brother had ended. Therefore, many noble families went over to Radu's side. They saw in him their chance to stop the policy of terror. Vlad found himself in a critical situation. His army had dwindled, Support from the bled-dry peasants had weakened, and holding the throne became more difficult than fighting the Turks. By the end of autumn, he controlled only part of the territory, while most fortresses let Radu the Handsome in without resistance. In November to December, the situation worsened even further. Radu's detachments advanced toward Targovista, forcing Vlad to leave the country. He crossed the Carpathians and went to Transylvania, hoping for his former ally, King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary. But instead of the support he expected, imprisonment awaited him. Matthias, on the basis of forged letters that supposedly testified to Dracula's betrayal, ordered his arrest. The former ruler of Wallachia became a political prisoner. The struggle for the throne ended for him in exile and captivity, and Wallachia passed under the rule of Radu the Handsome, an Ottoman protégé. While Vlad III was in captivity, the Ottoman Empire continued to seize the Balkans, which for centuries had held the line against the Islamic world. Mehmed II took advantage of the moment when Hungary and Venice were drawn into their own conflicts. Ottoman troops swiftly passed through Bosnian lands, captured King Stefan Tomaszewicz, and executed him. Bosnia, which only recently had been an independent European state, was turned into an Ottoman eyalet. The fall of Bosnia had enormous significance. Mehmed II gained a springboard for constant pressure on the southern borders of Hungary and forced Matthias Corvinus to continually commit additional resources. The last to resist the Ottomans on the southern flank was Gers Kostriati Skanderberg, a genius of guerrilla warfare who for 25 years prevented the Sultan from advancing. But in 1468, died. Without his authority, the Albanian princes could not withstand the Ottomans. Mehmed II methodically took city after city. Albania, recently a citadel of Christian resistance, effectively fell. The Christian front cracked at the seams. Serbia destroyed. Bosnia annexed. Albania exhausted and encircled. In the Balkans, there remained no strong Christian center, capable of stopping the Sultan's advance northward. And it was then that Matthias Corvinus decided to use Vlad as a military instrument against the Ottomans. After more than a decade of captivity, Vlad III received a small army and returned to Wallachia. He managed to drive out the Ottoman garrison and briefly restore his rule. But this was already a different Wallachia, bled dry, divided, with betrayed boyar clans. Both Ottoman detachments and internal rivals rose against Vlad. After several months of fighting, Vlad III was killed in battle, according to various sources, either in an ambush or in open combat. His head was sent to Istanbul, where it was displayed on a stake as proof of Dracula's death. The last Christian bastion in the south was the fortress of Scorched in northern Albania. In 1478, the Sultan personally led a campaign against the city. The Ottomans built siege works, artillery batteries, and raised platforms for storming the walls. Bombardments lasted for weeks. Stone cannonballs smashed towers. But the fortress held. The defenders, the Venetian garrison, and Albanian detachments fought in complete isolation. They lacked provisions, ammunition, and manpower. They held the fortress for almost 2 years. In 1479, the situation changed at the negotiating table. Venice, exhausted by the war and having received no support from Europe, signed peace with the Ottoman Empire. Under the terms of the treaty, Scorched passed to the Sultan. With its loss, the final subjugation of Albania was completed. And with it, the centuries-long process of the Ottoman conquest of the Balkans